Hi, welcome to Musicians on the Record. I'm David Ward. This is the show where we bring you the musician's story, and I am super glad today, in-person interview in the MOTR studios. I'm very psyched. He is not just a drummer. He can play just about every instrument under the sink, or in the sink, maybe. We're going to find out about that. We've got drummer, teacher, and band leader Brad Ciechomski on the record today. Welcome, Brad.
Hey, good to see you.
Absolutely.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, welcome to you. I want to talk a little bit about, I was looking at your website. You've got recordings, you're teaching. I lost count of how many bands you actually might be in right now, but
well, that fluctuates a bit.
Okay.
So the main group that I play with, the kind of the staple that's been a long time, is the Portland Jazz Orchestra, based out of Portland, Maine. It's a big band, traditional big band, 5 trumpets, 4 bones, and 5 saxes and rhythm section. The band was founded back in 2004, and we got the band together mostly to do the standard big band literature, but also to feature writers from within the band.
Okay.
So there's a bunch of guys that write in the band, as well as there's some people who've left the band who continue to write for the band. So
okay, great.
that's one of the main bands.
And so how many people in the band, in the orchestra?
Gosh, when everybody's there, 18.
18.
So 5 saxes, 5 trumpets, 4 bones, and 4 rhythm, piano, bass, guitar, and drums.
And how long has that orchestra been going?
We started in 2004. Then we got our house gig at One Longfellow Square in Portland.
Yeah.
I got to go there and plug.
Sure.
And we've been there once a month for the past 12 years, maybe.
Wow.
So it's a great venue for the band.
It's a beautiful venue. If people check it out online, onelongfellowsquare.com. Now, it's also a very intimate venue. How do you get an 18-piece orchestra in that place?
Yeah, they're not used to that kind of thing. They normally have a lot of acoustic acts, bluegrass, a quartet or whatever. I saw Charlie Hunter there, with the trio. And we get up on stage, we put our trumpets on the back wall, trombones in front of them, seated, the rhythm section on the stage, and then the saxes are in front of the stage, and we take out some seating.
I see.
So we rearrange they don't fill the place.
Okay.
Seating-wise, they have a limited amount of seating.
Got it. And where, most importantly, then, where are the drums?
Yeah, front and center.
Front and center.
I'm right on stage next to the bones.
Nice.
And, inside the rhythm.
Other big band drummers and band leaders that I've talked to tell me about, it feels like it's taking off, you're piloting a jet plane.
Absolutely.
Say more about that feeling.
Yeah, it's just, how do you explain it? You are able to set up the band in so many different ways and interpret the music. And I often say to my students, being a drummer in a big band is so interpretive. It's like setting up a Thanksgiving dinner for everybody else to then feed off of. So if I hear a certain phrase coming up with the band and I know it's coming, what's the best way I can set that so that the band just soars and takes off? When that happens as a big band drummer, and the fills you put in, the setups you fit in, fit perfectly within that, man, your job's done. We all bring our own set of tricks to that. Steve Gatto played it a little different than somebody else than I would, and so on. But it's what we do.
Yeah. So. Tell me about the different mindset, any different preparation for leading that kind of big band versus a small trio, blues band, rock band, something like that.
I guess the mindset would be it's all written. It's every note's written. Yeah. So you take that, or you take a jazz quartet. We're gonna stretch it out. We're gonna do this with that many people. You stay on the form.
Got it.
The difference comes for that group, though, is that stylistically everybody brings their own feel to it. It does in open solo sections sometimes go a certain way. But it's more prescribed because of the form.
Sure.
Because if we open things up and just play it loose, like if we're in a quartet, a tuba player might take 7 courses. Where in that group we have to know how many courses we're taking.
Sure, of course. Yeah. So mostly staying on the form, staying on the page. There is some room for improvisation and solos.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, but it's not like Mahavishnu Orchestra kind of. Right. Yeah, got it.
No, there's one tune we do by Charles Mingus where it's at one point. It's free. Everybody's free playing for like 16 bars,
Yeah.
maybe 32. And then it shuts down on beat 3 and it goes right to the bridge of the tune. So you have this cacophony of sound and it's just building and building, and then all of a sudden, whap, and then right to the bridge, and we're right back on the grid. Yeah. And it's a remarkable thing,
yeah.
you know, and people either dig it because they're like, this is pretty cool,
right.
or they're like, what the hell just happened? You know,
right? Yeah, maybe a little, yeah,
maybe a little both.
Right?
Too,
yeah,
right?
exactly. But that must be a powerful feeling when you're all doing that. But then you lock back into the form of the song, right?
And that's where, you know, like your combo skills, your listening comes together.
Yeah.
You're playing off of each other and
sure.
stretching. Sometimes, like, I'll look at the bass player and say, like, hold it down, and I take off.
Okay.
Meter wise, I won't play in time. I'll be superimposing other times over it, that kind of thing. So if we kind of communicate that, we can stretch a bit like you would in a combo.
Yeah.
But it's those are less often.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one band, one long-term band. You're also in a funk band, right?
Yeah.
Say more about that.
Funcation Land.
Funcation Land, yeah.
That band came together about 20 years ago.
Wow.
And we were, a bunch of musicians were all playing in various commercial settings. There's nothing wrong with it. It's great.
Sure.
It's wonderful, you know, to play pop tunes and dance tunes. And
right.
It's a blast.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feed your soul. And sometimes you're playing tunes that you'd rather not.
Right. Yeah.
So that band was born out of our desire to like play like some Tower Power and Stevie and Earth, Wind and Fire and some more challenging things for us. Yeah. That ran for about 2 years, maybe 3 years back then.
Okay.
And it was an 11-piece band, and it kind of got tough to keep it going.
Okay.
We tried to make it like an every Saturday or every 2 weeks gigging in the local scene. Hard with a band that size and schedules.
Right.
Flash forward about 2 years ago, I have a big tub with the library in it for the band, all the books.
Okay.
And I kept tripping over it. And I'm looking at it going like, this book, what is... Finally I open it up and I go, we should read this book.
Right.
So I called some of the same players and some new players from the old band.
Okay.
Put it back together, and now we're going again, and we're gigging now.
Is that right?
Yeah, our next date is on the 31st of January. So in the meantime, I'm writing a bunch for the band and writing the book. But it's a lot of Tower Power, a lot of Stevie Wonder, Earth, Wind and Fire, Room Full of Blues, horn-based funk music.
Yes. And when you say writing the book, you mean picking the songs or actually transcribing the note for the whole band?
Both. Some other players contribute a couple tunes. Okay. I've had to write a lion's share of the book. Okay. So right now I've actually been listening to a lot of Prince.
Yeah.
Man, some deep horn grooves.
Right.
So I'm gonna pick and choose a couple tunes to put together.
Great.
Some Prince, but also other tunes that Prince had covered in his live shows that, man, they got deep grooves. Right. So, and with the horns, you know, kicking it hard.
So are you doing this different than the original songs? Because are some of those already transcribed and you're changing them?
Yeah, we're changing them.
Okay.
We'll change them for keys for the singers because it's a different pitch.
Sure.
And secondly, some of the charts, it's hard to get charts for our instrumentation. We are alto sax, tenor sax, bari sax, 2 trumpets and bone, and then rhythm section.
Okay.
So it might be written for 1 trumpet, 2 saxophones and bone, and so you have to augment it.
Right. So it sounds like a big band as well. It's not jazz, but it's a funk big band, right?
It's 12 people.
That's a lot of people, right?
And then we've also had some people like, I'd love to sing background, so it might get bigger.
Right.
So
there you go.
It was hard to have 11 people working years ago, let's make it bigger.
You bet. Right. And any other bands?
I freelance a bit.
Okay.
I freelance and I do some jazz things here and there.
Okay.
Weddings, parties. I just kind of finished a run with a psychedelic rock band.
Oh, really?
So it's kind of music inspired by the Doors and the Beatles and the Grateful Dead and a lot of original music by one of the organizers of the band.
Okay.
Based out of that kind of realm of music.
Sure. And I imagine your jazz skills, your knowledge of music serves you quite well in that.
It helps.
Yeah.
It helps a lot because as jazz musicians, you okay, what are we doing? Got it? And you quickly listen and adjust.
Sure.
So that has been helpful.
Yeah. And even though John Densmore was a rock drummer, he was very much jazz, influenced by jazz as well, right? So, So how did all of this stuff start for you, Brad? When did you fall in love with music?
I was really young.
Okay.
Really, really young. And there was always music in my house. My brother's 11 years older than me.
Okay.
So when I was 5, he was, 16. And he played the trumpet. And he had a band, and they would play, they were called the Starlighters. And they'd play Moon River and all the tunes of that day. I was born in 59.
Okay.
So this is probably the mid-60s.
Yeah. And where'd you grow up?
Western Massachusetts,
Western
in
Mass.
South Hadley, near a suburb of Springfield.
Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, Springfield, if you know Joe Morello.
Yeah. Sure.
Joe Morello came out of Springfield.
Okay.
And Joe studied with a guy, Joe Sefcik, this old Polish guy.
I've heard the name.
And Joe Sefcik taught Joe, and Joe Sefcik was my first teacher too.
Wow.
So, in Joe Sefcik, if you're hip to books, studied with George Stone.
Yes,
Stick
George
control.
Lawrence Stone. Sure,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
So I always say to my kids, I'm kind of like a grandchild of
Right.
stick control,
Right.
and that kind of thing.
It's quite a lineage.
Well, yeah, I hope I can keep it up. I don't know.
It sounds like you are.
So I grew up in Western Mass, and there was a lot of music around. And I remember looking at an album cover, and it was a drawing of folding chairs and wire music stands. And all the instruments were like on a break. They were like sitting on the chairs. And I just looked at this and said, that's where I'm going to be.
Wow.
I just got to be there. Not from, it was never like, we all think we're going to be an astronaut, we're going to be whatever, all this stuff. But that was like, I got to be involved in music.
And you were how old at that point?
Oh, from when I can remember,
Yeah.
I just knew I'd be involved in music.
Oh.
And wanted to be a drummer, and my mother wanted me to play anything else.
Right, of course. Yeah.
Because of the carting of the equipment.
It's too
and
loud,
stuff.
right?
It's loud, it's big, it's noisy,
Right.
I don't recall this, but my mother said, I told her, the drummer's the heartbeat of the band.
Right.
She's like, okay, so off I went.
Thank you, Mom.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm not sure Dad was
Right,
so,
right. Yeah.
And I got my first drum set, and then the soundproof room came in the basement, and pretty quickly after.
Yeah.
So,
What was your first kit?
oh gosh, it was a Japanese drum. Back then, Japanese drums were not cool.
Yes.
They were not good at all.
Right.
So it was Blue Sparkle.
Yeah.
I was 11 years old when I got it, and it was a Japanese drum kit, a little 3-piece.
Okay.
Blue Sparkle Jam. Yeah.
Nice. Love
it. I still have my snare drum.
Really?
Oh
Wow.
yeah. It was a Ludwig Acrolite.
Okay. Yeah. Great drums.
That brushed kind of.
Yeah, sure. Nice.
Yeah.
And cymbals?
Oh gosh. Right now I play. Well, I've got old K, not old K. When K started to come back out, I was playing with a big band in New Hampshire called the Ted Herbert Big Band. He had a big music store in New Hampshire and Manchester. And the drum tech at that store has said, like, you got to check this out. And it was the early 80s when they started making Ks again.
Yeah.
And I put a K20 on my stand, and it never left. Like, he's like, check it out on the gig.
Yeah.
Never left my bag. So Zildjian, I do play some Istanbuls.
Okay.
I've gotten hip to the Karopes too now. I've got a couple Karopes.
Yeah.
I've got a nice Istanbul 19-inch. I'd love to say I play all Zildjian, but my hi-hats are old, New Beats. And New Beats, when New Beats came out,
Yeah.
I was in New York at 16 years old and looking to buy cymbals. And this is how old I am, and they are. There's this, all these people are walking around the store and everybody's buzzing and all excited. I'm like, who's that? And all these big guys with afros, these big African American guys. And they're like, man, that's Cool in the Gang. I'm like, who's Cool in the Gang? And he's like, you got to check these cymbals out, man. They're called New Beats. I'm like, New Beats, man. They're not, one's thin, one's thick. He's like, yeah, it's the next cool thing. So I bought them. So I bought them before Cool in the Gang were hip.
Aha! You started it.
Well, no, but that's how old my cymbals are. So I guess that makes me old too.
Sure. It's the old New Beats, right?
Yeah, 45 years ago or something like that.
Right.
So,
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
So, and cymbals. And then I play Yamaha drums.
Okay.
I've got that funk Yamaha kit that I play, the Maple Customs.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And I also play I just picked up a set of DWs. I just jumped in.
Nice.
I had a set of Birch drums that I use for jazz.
Okay.
And I loved them, but I'm loving the DWs more.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
so that's my jazz kit. My
Yeah,
DWs.
fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're growing up. You caught the bug for music. You're falling in love with it. Your folks gave you a drum set. Yeah. What is the dream that's starting to brew here? Because you're wanting to make it part of your life.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of funny. When I was young, I grew up in a household that we're all Polish, and there was a very Polish community. So there's a lot of ethnic music on the stereos all the time, and so I listened to a lot of Polish music.
Okay.
And believe it or not, I started playing. I got my first gig at 11 years old with a polka band.
It's amazing.
Now, these polka bands they're pretty aggressive.
Yes.
It's loud.
Fast. Yeah.
Fast and trumpets, you know, and microphones.
Yeah.
It's not like oompa, oompa,
Right,
oompa.
right.
So it's, and the drummer, and honestly, I think that's where my jazz big band approach started.
Okay.
Because in those kinds of situations, you were always setting things up and putting fills in and catching, and there was lots of small sections, and you were always setting up the next section. Yeah. So at 11, I played my first gig with a polka band, and I remember got to the end of the night, and there was, you know, free food and free soda for me.
Sure, right.
And women.
Yeah, there you go, Great. And, it's a good gig.
And they go like, and everybody gets paid, and they handed me $25.
Wow.
And I was like,
yeah,
it's a pretty good deal. So I did that a lot through high school.
Cool.
And I would say during high school, I made the equivalent of today's dollars, about 25 grand on weekends when I was in high school.
That's fantastic.
Playing in these bands. Went to college.
Yeah.
And started that educational track and then transferred off into different kinds of music, jazz and rock and so on.
Yeah. Okay. And so you mentioned your important teacher.
Oh. Joe Ciechomski.
Joe Ciechomski.
Yeah.
Tell me about studying with Joe and any other teaching or musical inspirations.
Yeah, there's been, as with many people, there have been many teachers. Joe is probably, you know, the father for me. Yeah. Tough as nails.
Is that right?
Oh yeah. Small little studio in a apartment building kind of thing where there were a lot of music studios, and would holler. Oh, he would holler. He loved you like a grandfather, but boy, he gave it to you. And really taught me how to dig in and play well, as best I could, and that has instilled in me how to help kids in my teaching really dig in and come on. Joe was the type of guy who he'd walk through knee deep horse poop with you.
Yep.
But you do it with him to get you to the next place.
Sure. Yeah. So he was gonna. I mean, there's some merit to that style of really gonna hold you accountable. If he gives you homework, you do the homework, or you're wasting his time, right? So
yeah, and he'd give you hell.
Yeah.
And he'd yell. There was across from the drum set on this wall was a big poster, a caricature of him with this big, bubble, like a speaking bubble, and it was a count, and we had to count our brains out and all these rhythms.
Yeah. And so, learning jazz or learning.
Starting, actually, when looking back, I didn't realize at the time, starting the swing and all the swing patterns, it was the start of some independent, I hate to use the word independence because I don't believe it.
Okay, no.
We'll talk about that.
I'm curious about that.
But you know that,
yes.
So the left hand's doing something different.
Yes, yes. Which is one of the hardest books, The Advanced Techniques for the Modern Drummer, Jim Chapin. And okay, that just hurts my head. So.
And syncopation, to where you can go through it 50 some odd different ways, the Alan Dawson method and that.
Right. Yeah. So say more about that, please. Independence. How do you see that?
So, a while back I really got into Cuban music.
Okay.
And the whole Afro-Cuban stuff.
Yeah.
And it was a real challenge for me to play it. And people talk about independence like, wow, you got your clave in your left foot as you're playing this. But I don't really believe, because this is your trunk, and these are your branches. So they're not independent.
Right.
This is my philosophy.
Yeah, please.
It's a way of looking at it.
I want to hear it.
So I think of say if you're doing a songo beat with your feet, you got your on your left foot.
Yeah.
And you one on the right foot. So you could think of them as independent, or you could think together. So it can be together, apart, and where they occur, no different, I would think, than piano players thinking their hands are independent.
Right. Okay.
On the piano, or my pinky's independent from my thumb.
Right.
It's just a different rhythm and patterns that make up a complex recipe.
Yeah, but still part of the hand, pinky and the thumb, right?
Yeah, so I think of like almost alone together, you know, or that's simplifying it down, but if you're doing the cascara beat with the right hand, it lines up with your bass drum time in the clave. So things are happening together or apart, but they're all connected to the trunk. Because truly, could I think about playing, and I know some cats do this, like 5 on my right foot, 4 on my left foot, 7 and then 3.
Yeah, right. That's.
I don't know physically how to do that.
Right,
It would have to be something that where they line up or they don't.
Right. So what for the beginning student or someone who's been at it for a while? I mean, I just find it a victory if I'm moving all 4 limbs at the same time, no matter what noise I'm making, because that's not easy to do. Where do people start with that? What's the best way to start?
I like say beginning basic drummers.
Yeah.
I say, all right, play rights. Right hand drummer. Say rights. Hit your rights.
Okay.
Now hit all. And then rights, all, rights, all, rights, all. So you get quarter notes.
Yes. Yeah.
And then after that you go rights, symbol, all, symbol, right, symbol, all, symbol, rights. And you get your basic rock beat and eighth notes.
Right. Okay.
From there, if they can keep that going then put a little drum fill in the fourth, do 3 measures, drum fill in the fourth measure, and then land on your feet.
Right.
And then we can start to develop from there. There's a great book by Peter Erskine that's kind of the same approach, the Elemental drum set book. And then he has the same pattern going in now, like 1, 2, and 3 with the bass drum.
Got it. Yeah.
So.
Amazing drummer, Peter Erskine, right? So, drumming influences. Who are your guys or women, or the sort of Mount Rushmore of it for you?
There's so many.
Yeah.
How can you?
Yeah.
I think, people ask me, who's my favorite, and like everybody brings their own thing. David Garibaldi. For a while, I was a Weckl fan. It's like, oh my God. Throughout the whole thing, I would say, if I had to meet one person and really study and learn from them, I'd say Gad. And the reason for me is because every note is not just a flash or a filler. It's like it's so sincere what he does. It's like his body's connected to every drum when he plays, and it shows. Buddy, I didn't like Buddy for a long time. I thought Buddy was way over the top, and it was a drum set with a big band accompaniment. So I really was more digging Louis Bellson in college than Buddy. Because Louis would swing, and Buddy was always over the top. And then I saw some of Buddy's videos. You've probably seen them where they slow it down, they show what he's doing. It's like, holy cow!
There's a lot of talent there.
Oh, there's a lot of talent there. And you can't. And when he played a whole night on a broken wrist, So you can't. So many players. Man, it's just so many. I mean, I listen to Stuart Copeland. I think he's killing. John Bonham, just listening to those drums. When I was back in my youth and I was listening, I didn't realize how good of a drummer and how well they recorded him in tune.
Absolutely. And very jazz influenced, right?
Totally. And then there's Ginger. And I mean, where do you stop?
Exactly.
If I boiled it down, I'd probably say Steve Gadd, because he crosses, the jazz and the rock and all that.
The stuff he plays with Clapton is just incredible.
Bill Stewart and combo wise, the new cat for Antonio Pat Metheny.
Sanchez?
Yes, oh my God.
Antonio Sanchez,
I saw Pat Metheny here, and it was a lesson. I just stood and watched. Oh my God. Stuff I could never even dream of doing. This guy's just ideas.
And that's really inspiring, right?
Oh, totally.
No doubt. Even if
that's what you do. You listen to somebody like, wow, that's really hip, and you want to become part of that. It's like a chef with a recipe.
There you go. Yeah, I like that. So when did you decide to go into, because you could have gone a number of different ways. You were studying music. When did you decide you wanted to also teach?
So I'm a senior in high school. And I'm making a lot of money. I bought my car cash. I got my license, bought a car the next
25 grand. That's quite a bit in high school.
It is. So senior year, about January, I'm the last of 5 kids. I say, I want to go to college. And my mom goes, good luck. And
Okay.
So, I'm going for music. It's like, good luck. Yeah, your grades aren't that great because you've been doing all these gigs.
Right.
So off I go, decide I'm going to enroll in college. And the only thing really was a music ed program. So I did that. And then I thought for a while, I want to compose. So junior year, I decided to switch to be a composition major. And I knew that was not going to be profitable.
Yeah.
And I had to think about what I wanted for a life and a living.
Sure.
And could I keep music going, but have a decent living and so on. So like many people do, it's a balance of what you choose. And so I went into education, and I love it. I think it's great. Just kind of how I went. And I continued the playing, and then beyond that also the composing and writing too and all that.
Yeah.
So,
and you've been teaching in the public school system here in Maine at Yarmouth Middle School for how long, you mentioned?
This is my 29th year of teaching in Yarmouth school system.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And you also teach privately as well?
I have in the past, but currently I don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
You're busy enough.
Well, I'm busy enough, and I'm finding that maybe it's that the younger kids just want to learn a little bit to play rock and move on, and they're not like into the technique of stick control or the technique of really grooming that. Some older kids, maybe who are high school seniors or juniors who are heading towards a college thing, I will help them get along that way to their auditions.
Sure. Right.
So not too many students these days.
Yeah.
But that saves time for other things like writing and so on.
Right. How have you improved and grown as a teacher over the 29 years?
Well, I think that behind every music stand is a kid, and you're teaching children, and you happen to be teaching music. And if you remember that first and foremost, you're on the right path. So. How's my teaching improved? Wow, it's a always developing thing. Yeah. Learning why a student. My wife is also a teacher, and she has a great phrases. If they could, they would. So if they come in and they're just not prepared, or they're not getting something, how is it that I need to help them to get there?
Sure.
There's a attitude or a thought process called servitude leadership, and it means you're my student. I'm going to pour out everything I can to you to help you, and I get back from you that, and it's like this cycle. Right. It's a little heady or a little yoga-ish kind of thing.
But I like it.
But the idea is that the more I can give and be vulnerable and give to you, the more I get back from the band community kind of thing.
Absolutely. And I can relate to that of the if I could do it, I would do it. That usually is me on the drum set. If I could play like that, I would do it. But it takes a while to.
Well, we all think that, don't we?
Right.
I always say that if you got off a stage and you're like, wow, that was perfect. Right. You're either deaf or lying. Right. I mean, nobody leaves the stage saying. Right. Oh, that was great.
So let's talk about that actually then. For you, with your experience and any sort of advice for other musicians, drummers or otherwise, getting ready to play a gig, fear of mistakes, stage fright kind of stuff.
Yeah, so you prepare. Okay. You prepare as good as you can, and you put yourself in uncomfortable situations, because that's where growth comes. Right. Growth never comes from, I'm comfortable, everything's fine. Yeah. So you prepare as best you can, and then you get into those uncomfortable situations. And I've been in them. I've been in them where a trombone player from New York comes up to Maine, and he's like, yeah, we're just going to play tunes, man. I was like, okay. And then he goes like, yeah, let's do this in 7. Okay. So you have to... Right. You have to be in those uncomfortable situations. Sure. And so you prepare, get yourself in uncomfortable situations, and know that everybody makes mistakes. Right. It's like bad skiers and good skiers, the quicker the recovery is the maturity of the skier. Yes. So the quicker the recovery is, I mean, I've seen some live Tower Power shows on like YouTube. Yeah. And there's some mistakes. Sure. And I see Emilio kind of go like, just look over, and they catch it. Sure. But everybody's right. Yeah. Screws.
We're all human. All have good days and bad days, right? So
So you just try to have a more consistent. You try to bring the bar up and have a more consistent level. Sure. So as far as a person, I'd say just keep trying. Nobody's going to give it to you. You got to go out and earn it, and sometimes you got to take some bruises when you.
Sure. Yeah.
on the way.
Well, and it's interesting. It's sort of like with rudiments or grooves or whatever. The more you practice, the better you get. It's the same thing with playing live, right? So, yeah.
But you could practice too long.
Right. Correct.
So, where you're practicing. Okay, I got to get it. Let's just get on stage and see what happens. Because sometimes those magical moments. They really happen.
Yeah. What do you recommend as a good balance, as a good limit for practicing?
Well, obviously, the youngest student, the less. And the oldest student, if you could practice more. It's more, I always say practice smarter, don't practice longer. Okay. So if I can play a songo groove, well, that's great. I don't have to practice songo. Right. Now let's play, there's two claves, the son, right, and the rumba clave. Let's play the other clave with my left foot instead and work on the uncomfortable stuff. Yeah. But come back to the fun stuff too. So practicing should be three things, I think. It should be one, familiarity, stuff you're working on, and stuff that challenges you. Okay. And it could be in a variety of order. Right. So you have some familiarity stuff that I got this. This is good. It feels good. Yeah. We should all do that. And then I'm working on this beat now. I'm like, what the heck is this? Right. And slow the quarter note down.
Slow it down. Right. Yeah.
And then start to bring it back up.
So very true. Right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You also have some recordings too. Did I read that right?
It's Portland Jazz.
Yeah.
We've recorded a couple CDs, and the last CD that we just released a year ago now coming up. We produced ourselves. The trombonist, who's the artistic director, Chris Oberholzer, and myself, we did the mixing, the editing, the mastering, and it was about a year-long project for a big band to do 10 tracks.
No doubt.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, that is a lot of work. So, and you mixed that where? Just sort of
home studio.
Home studio. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I have a Mac-based home studio. Okay. So we recorded the tracks in a big room, and then took the hard drive with us and plugged it in and started doing our work. Sure. And with a big band, there's lots of things you've got to address. That tenor sax player is a little early. That trumpet's a little long. Is that alto a little sharp? And so there was a lot of adjustments to make the band be. We didn't make it perfect, but we made it the best possible band it could be. And And that's what recording is these days.
That's right. Awesome. Where can people get those recordings, Brad?
From us when we're playing.
Okay.
And then our website is portlandjazzorchestra.com.
Okay.
If you go .org, you'll be on the other side of the country.
Got it.
So there's another Portland Jazz. If you see a bunch of people and they're on the West Coast, it's not us.
Not you.
portlandjazzorchestra.com.
.com. Okay.
Yeah.
Where do you want your music to go at this point? Are you good? Do you have other goals? Do you have other dreams? What's next for you?
My music go. I feel very fortunate. I do feel very fortunate that I've been able to play with a lot of great players, and I think we all have the self-doubts and woulda, coulda, shouldas.
Yeah.
Everybody does, I think.
Sure.
And I think like, wow, I gotta, somebody's coming to town, like, example, John Faddis came to town a couple of years back, and I got a phone call. Would you play in a combo behind him? I was like, yes.
Yeah.
They're like, well, the money's. I'm like, yes.
Right.
I don't care about the money.
Right.
So I've been fortunate to do that kind of thing and associate with some of those players.
Nice.
Eric Marienthal from the West Coast, an alto player, came out. And the feeling that we started playing a blues thing. He came on stage and blew a killing chorus, or many of them. Turned around and looks at the rhythm section. He goes like, "Yeah, all right, we're going to be okay."
Right.
So I feel very fortunate for those things. I hope that I can continue that. That the phone will ring. I will have enough facility. I won't throw my back out from carrying my hardware case.
Right.
I feel fortunate to have those opportunities. Sure. What's next? I just think I always say, hang with the best people you can, and things might come your way a bit by accident even. Right. So if I hang with certain people who are doing a lot of great things locally, you somehow become part of this group that.
Sure.
Yeah. That you're lucky.
And can you talk about the importance? I mean, you are clearly networked. Can you talk about the importance of networking for musicians and connecting with other folks?
Yeah. Well, I think that the music business is two things. It's the music and it's the business.
Right.
So people have to remember. I recently saw. I finished a set and another band came on after we finished, and the first thing they started playing this cool kind of Latin thing. I was like, "Wow, this is really cool. This is hip," and immediately they branched into a very avant-garde sound.
Okay.
Which in the right setting is cool, but this wasn't the right setting.
Sure.
And it was a little bit of, I'm going to do my own thing over here.
Right. Yeah.
So knowing where you are and what you have to do and who you're dealing with in helping that situation to be the best it can be is so important. Being a nice person.
Right.
And just getting along with people.
Right.
Yeah,
because you don't want to, even if the person has good chops, you don't want to hang around with somebody who's...
I can tell you stories of people who come to town where
right?
It's rough.
Yeah, right.
They're not nice people.
Sure.
And they're big names and so on. And we've heard about this. And then there's other people who are big names and coming. They're just the nicest people in the world.
Right.
David Garibaldi, a friend of mine, after the show they had a meet and greet, and a friend of mine brought his son, who was young, and met him and said, "This is David Garibaldi," and he says, "My son's a drummer." David Garibaldi says, "Oh, cool. What are you working on?" The kid said, "I'm working on 60s notes, sir." And David Garibaldi goes, "Man, cool. So am I." You know,
Yes.
It's so true.
Right. Exactly.
So, networking. I think that you're as good as your last gig, and sometimes you're as good as your last set. So that doesn't mean you have to be an ego and be a killing player and all that, but know that if it's a society wedding gig, do your job.
Right.
It's not a jazz avant-garde gig.
Right.
Or if it's a rock gig, don't try to bring all kinds of improv to it. Lay it down.
Right.
You know, when the band turns on, it's like, yeah, man, this feels great.
Sure.
My job is halfway done.
Right.
That's how I feel about that.
Yeah, that's a good feeling, right?
Yeah, it's a great feeling for everybody.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Where can folks find out more about you and your music, your website, your teaching?
Thank you. Brad C, because my last name is too hard to spell, bradcmusic.com. And on there, I try to update. It's mostly, I have some playing stuff up there, but it's mostly for my compositional stuff. Okay. I do a lot of writing for school bands and jazz bands. Okay. And so that's, as the publishers have asked, is a marketable thing I have to have up there.
Got it. And you're, from what I read too, you're on different Alfred Publishing and...
Yeah, Alfred Chose, which is KJOS. Okay. They're out of California. Okay. FGH Publishing out of Florida. I'm going to forget some.
Yeah, that's okay.
I got a bunch of school band pieces published.
That's amazing.
For kids to play. Yeah. And
it's incredible.
It's kind of great because I have my little laboratory at school. I can try things out.
Right.
And they're like, kids like, that doesn't work well. So I go back and fix it.
So what do you learn from them? What do you learn from your kids?
I learn all the time.
Yeah.
Totally.
Give me an example.
You learn how much you can work and how much you have to play sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes... Again, I can work. The kids won't work hard with me unless they know I'm there for them. Yeah. And I'll be there. And so sometimes that's having a little fun, joking around. Yeah. Now let's get to business.
Right.
You know, it's like the uncle who you really respect and love. You'll rake the backyard with them. Right. But you also know you might go apple picking or something sometime. He's there for you. Sure. So I learn from my kids all the time. Sometimes what I shouldn't do.
Right, sure, right, exactly.
You go home and you're like, that wasn't good.
Right, so, you got to adjust course slightly on those things, right? Yeah. Is there anything we haven't covered, Brad, that is important to talk about that you want to let folks know about?
I guess I never would have dreamt that I would be sitting here with you in my younger self, and to leave yourself open to meeting people, paths and music, and if it brings you joy and you want to go there, go for it. And it's going to take you to a whole new place. Did I ever think I'd be, playing in one of the most successful big bands in Maine for this long? No. So leave yourself open to those opportunities because you never know where your path's going to take. I never would have thought I'd be a middle school band teacher in my life, nor would I think that I would have music published for middle school band by me. Nor would the phone ring and somebody says, hey, so-and-so's coming to town, would you want to play drums behind them? Whether it's Joan Rivers, the comedian, which was a stitch.
Yeah, well, what was that like?
Oh my God. It was funny. There were so many funny things about that show. One was, at one point, Joan Rivers is going to ask you for help because she's going to fall on the floor, and don't do it. So we had to sit there. So they'd say that the band was on stage, the old kind of floor show kind of style. And in the contract, it's like, go to the bathroom before you get on stage. You will not leave the stage.
Is that right?
Yep. And laugh at her jokes. And we played 2 songs. We played her on, we stabbed her left, and we played her off. And she came back for an encore, and we played her off one more time. 3 songs.
That's a pretty good gig.
She was a sweetheart of a lady.
Yeah.
Oh, really nice person.
Nice.
So, and funny. Oh my God. The things she said at 80 years old.
Right. I was going to say, maybe stuff you can't repeat.
I can't. I better not.
Right.
Kids might watch this.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So those opportunities just affect that. Wow. I never would have guessed it would take me here.
Sure.
Or to play for George W. Bush, at one point.
Yeah. Read that too.
Man, how does that happen?
Right. Yeah. What was that like?
We were loading our gear in, and it was a big long line, and they had the bomb sniffing dogs and all these big security people, and they're going down the line, and I'm standing there, and I'm 6'3", and there's a security cat bigger than me.
Yeah. Wow.
And I look over and I say, I'm surprised you haven't wrestled me to the ground yet, sir. He goes, I can work that out if you want to. I'll beat you. I was like, good.
Right.
So, and just again, opportunities. Opportunity. Success is the product of opportunity, meaning preparedness. So you can be prepared but not have an opportunity, and you can have the opportunity, but man, you don't have it together yet. Right. So those having 2 things together, if you can do that, you can be successful. No matter what you do.
Sure, exactly. But the very cool thing, which is a hard thing to do, you are living the dream. You're making your life in music, and it's diversified in a number of different ways. But and not that there's anything wrong with digging ditches or plumbing or whatever. But if you want to be in music, you're doing it. So that's really awesome. Great advice. Cool. Stay open to that.
Absolutely, man.
Because it may look different than you think it was, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it will.
Right.
It will.
Yeah.
I mean, I never thought I would touch electric drums. Because I grew up, man, when drum machines came out and they were putting people out of work.
They were awful too, right? They were awful. Yeah.
And just, but now,
Yeah.
It's hip.
The technology is caught up as well. So
and we can incorporate it into the kit.
That's right.
It's not replacing me anymore.
That's
it's like now this whole new palette of wow. Right. So opportunity, man, or just keep yourself open, man.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Sounds great. Wonderful stuff with Brad Ciechomski. Check out bradcmusic.com. Is that right?
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Brad, thank you so much for being on the record today.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. Great. I'm David Ward from Musicians on the Record. Stay tuned, everybody. See you next video.